Hello and welcome to Cinemondo Explores Star Trek with Kathy, Mark, and Burk and Mark. Today's episode is Arena. Does anybody else besides me know the star date of Arena?
January 19th, 1967.
That is so wrong. That is not correct.
I go with what Mark said. I'm with him.
That's the air date. But what's the star date, Burk?
I have to look it up. Hold on.
Jesus.
3045.6.
Woo! Kathy with the win.
I don't know. I'm just making shit up.
Well, this is it is okay. Star date 3045.6.
What'd I say? What'd I say? That was
You didn't
exactly
say
what
that.
you said.
I did say it. I was like 3045.6.
Well, you slurred, so maybe.
I'm
I'm
said it very
impressed.
quickly.
You
I can read.
This is a favorite. This is a favorite episode. And
It's the best. I just want to say I loved this so much. It's like probably my most favorite besides Tribbles.
why?
Really, this is really is your most favorite?
Mark's making a face.
Well, it's
No, I'm making a face because, like, the first 10 seconds of the show, I'm like, man, Kathy's going to be.
I loved it.
Yeah, the
so
very
much.
first few seconds where they're like,
Oh, yeah, but that's
captain's privileges.
Yeah, but that's
pretty funny. It's like we
It
all
is
know
funny,
about
though.
that.
Didn't they seem drunk
Yeah.
to you? Like I was watching it again, they're all like slurring the word, like
Well, it's that thing where somebody who's getting ready, who is an alcoholic, is being told there's booze in the next room and they're going to be serving it, and then they already start acting drunk before.
yeah,
they
just the
even get
thought
it.
of it, and they start getting wasted.
Yeah.
It's so
But
weird.
McCoy's tongue is hanging out. He's like, yeah, seen that before.
It's so weird.
Privileges
Like-
of rank.
Yeah.
Well, this
It was so good.
the brief synopsis of this episode. It's a classic. It's called Arena. It's based on a story, which is interesting because Frederick Brown is a known and very good science fiction writer. Wrote a bunch of great stuff, and the Gene L. Kuhn wrote the script for this. And according to the story, you might know more about this, Mark, but according to the story, he wrote this episode.
Mark 1 or Mark 2?
You down there.
It's called me Maddox.
Maddox.
Like you,
That's
like
a good
you
idea.
used to- like Burke, like when you used to take my lunch money, you know, Maddox.
Oh
you know.
yeah, that's right.
You know, treat him like the bully you are.
No, I
up,
mean it's
Maddox.
it's a famous. It's what's so weird is that just about 3-4 weeks ago, I actually did a podcast on the story, on the
Oh,
original
okay.
Frederick Brown story,
Oh, okay.
and this
And
is
it's
there's
called
a word,
Arena, right?
and it's called Arena, and it's basically about the Earth is getting ready to get into a giant fight with this other system. They don't know what these creatures are like, but they're getting ready to go at it with their spaceships, and these aliens take them and drop them on this planet. There's a force field in between the two between the human and this creature. The guy's completely nude. They've got no weapons. There's just whatever you find on the planet.
Completely
surface.
nude.
And there's a rollerball. Well, I mean, it
Pretty
actually
nude.
was the first time Starlog ever caught any hell because Boris did some artwork of from the story, and you saw a little naked tushy.
Oops.
But anyway,
That's
there's
not
this
good.
rollerball creature with tentacles that rolls around on the other side of the force field, and they're throwing stuff at each other. And the guy finally figures that if he knocks himself unconscious, he can fall through the force field, and then he gets up and then he goes to kill this. He kills this thing. The difference is between 1960s science fiction and there's a term for this sort of science fiction, like not militant or something, but back then when you killed a monster is like good, the monster's dead. There wasn't any of this understanding. I mean, Bakken would have just gone nuts. Do it for the love of
It was
God.
like the Heinlein
know what?
thing. It was like
You know,
militaristic.
Maybe that's why I love this episode, because it ended the proper way. It should.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
but back then, not
They
only
didn't
did he
give a
kill the rollerball, they wiped out and they genocided the entire plant creature.
And then they probably
all of them.
left.
And then they were,
probably
and,
just left.
and then the guy woke up, and then him and his buddy had a little conversation because nobody else knew that this guy had saved the universe or their version of the universe. And so it ended with them going like, "Whew, boy, that was close." And it was like, "Holy crap!"
And it
You
was
know.
written in the time that
We
wasn't
wiped
too
out an
far
entire
from-
species.
Wasn't
Yeah.
too long ago that the guy who wrote it was probably involved in World War II. So a lot of I don't know when the story was written, but was it like not too long after World War II.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
And
Yeah.
there was still that kind of idea of people really wanting to read stories about the Nazis getting
Little
trashed, you know,
subtext.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the idea, if you wrote a story not too long after World War II, where it ended like this one, where he said, "No, I'm not going to kill him." Maybe there was a misunderstanding. Maybe we were intruding on their space. You know, it would have been like, no, you should kill him.
Yeah.
It's a Nazi.
Yeah.
I think it was a sparkly little dress that did it.
It's
You
cute.
can't
Yeah,
kill
it's a cute
anyone
dress.
wearing a cute little sparkly tunic.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the Metrone that finally showed up. I'm like, why the hell?
Oh yeah, that sparkly
It's
dress.
another
Also
sparkly
was-
dress.
Kathy wanted to kill her and take the dress. is
Oh,
what it
I
was.
loved it. The fashion was amazing in this.
Yeah.
The styling and everything on all these episodes is always so wonderful, and the idea.
Yeah.
I mean, but the basic story is, I mean, the idea was basically very much like the story Mark just told us about by Frederick Brown, but the writer of the Star Trek episode apparently wrote it without realizing or subconsciously remembered. And the legal department went through and said, "Hey, this story has this point. It's called Arena. It's this, and this, and this. It's too close." So they actually had to contact the guy who wrote the short story, Frederick Brown,
Mhm.
and actually buy the story by credit from him. And what's interesting about it was when they asked him, he said, "Oh, I've never written television," and he said, and the legal department from Star Trek or whoever, they said, "Well, you have now."
Surprise!
Well, it was a good transition. I know that the animated series did some with Larry Niven later, and
Yeah.
to me, those are some of the best episodes of Star Trek where they pull from that. In this case, it is very different. It's still Gene Coon really Star Trekked it up.
Yeah,
I mean, he did a brilliant job of it. It's I watched it again last year. And I watched it again today when Burk called me and goes, "Hey, man, we're going to do the episode." So I started watching. I'm like, man, this show is great. This is like, there are so many science fiction movies. Like if you were to take all the science fiction movies from end to end, there's like that many that are the super classics, those that are the good. And then, but you can drop Star Trek up at that area.
yeah.
Not in the far, not,
No.
well, it's about as good as a mediocre Roger Corman science fiction.
Yeah.
No,
Nope.
No.
it's
Way better.
amazing.
It's
like
beautifully
we-
directed.
We watched
Yeah.
it last night, my wife and I, and after it was over, my wife said, "I love that one." You know, it's
See,
like
girls love that one.
it's
the
one that's exciting.
believe
It's
you.
got multiple
sparkles.
parts. It has different things going on, and it's got great character stuff.
Well, one thing I love too is I always love the Star Trek that's just bridge based. I love when they're on the bridge and all the action's happening like over the comm or on the screen. And so they take that best thing, then they throw them on this. So it's another great sequence of like them with their giant fake rocks and
Yeah.
the super annoying missile sound the whole time. Just,
Right.
pew, 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 just constant super
Yeah.
and the most conspicuous red shirt in the entire world.
I thought that, that's the
You
thing.
just had a target on his back the minute he
That whole first part where McCoy and Kirk are joking about, I guess, getting drunk or something more nefarious.
whatever was going on.
They
there.
get there, it's like, rank hath its privileges. And then you go from that, a part of the show I never really paid attention to before until today. And I'm like, gosh, darn. Then you go down to Cestus 3, and they got the neat planet surface, and the guy's got the radiation burns on his face, and they found out that they were suckered into coming there and bringing their tactical people down. And then that one guy gets fried, the red shirt gets fried. That is a very cool science fiction thing. How do you kill a guy on screen, watch him die, and yet you can get away with it with the sensors and all that kind of stuff. And that guy gets fried. And then Kirk, of course, does his running while the bombs are going off. And
Running
this
and
is where
jumping.
I think this is the episode where Shatner got his tinnitus.
Yes.
Am I saying that?
Yeah.
This is the one.
Tonight.
And he's had it ever since. He's had to
Right.
go to a psychiatrist. He's had a constant ringing in his ear ever since.
Right.
I think
And-
it's this episode. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I'm like, you know what? The last half of the show is really famous, but the first half is just as good.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it's amazing how well done it is.
yeah.
Yep. And
I think
and the
it's-
Vasquez rocks, it's like that whole sequence, just all the slow motion kind of action that, the most slow throwing rocks. And then they chase each other for like forever, but it's so compelling to watch.
Well, it's beautifully directed and edited.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the costume was great of the lizard guy, Gorn.
I think when you
that's
have like, two people battling or two creatures battling, it's got to be well directed, and what makes this is you really know, you get a sense of where the two characters are around, Vasquez rocks around the planet. You just where they are throughout the whole time.
especially if you're familiar with
That's-
Vasquez rocks and
Well,
have worked on like 100
So
TV
funny.
shows that shot at Vasquez rocks.
Right.
I'm
I know,
familiar
like,
with
every
Vasquez
inch.
rocks, and I've never been there. I've seen it on
You
how many
can't miss
episodes of The Invaders or
Yeah.
whatever it's been on. But yeah, exactly.
I've worked on TV shows there, like countless TV shows I've shot in just about every place that you could imagine. And I'm like, oh, that's where we shot so-and-so. That's where we shot so-and-so. It's so funny.
Yeah. Well, it's like for me, I listen to you guys talking about it. It's just like, I so much want to go out there and just walk around that place. And for you, it's like, ho hum, been there, done that. But for me,
No,
still
it's
love
always
it.
thrilling.
That's so
I
Oh,
still love it. I love going
Never
there.
gets old.
I
You
go
can
out
see
and I
it-
walk out to this one spot and I look back at Vasquez rocks and I'm like,
Ah,
dude, that's
I love it.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
Well, speaking of rocks, Shatner picks up a rock about the size of a human head and then throws it, and it bounces off the Gorn's chest.
Yeah.
And then he keeps walking. Now the Gorn picks up this boulder the size of, I don't know what, a steamer trunk, and
Yeah.
throws it. But you can see by the way he throws it, the angle sort of goes
Yeah.
like off to the left.
Trajectory is
And
weird.
then next thing you know, Shatner's looking up in the sky,
Yeah.
and he's up on a mountain, and this thing comes down and crashes. Shatner then goes and starts rolling that boulder,
I love it.
which as size of that boulder, it would have definitely been a Wile E. Coyote thing and rolled back on him. And,
Yeah.
he would have rolled down the hill attached to the boulder. And,
It would have been
when
like a
he's-
flat Kirk on the top of the rock.
yeah, really, you just, with Shatner's expression. With and then when his leg gets caught, the rock. I mean, I looked at it today. I'm like, man, those rocks are way too heavy for a guy to be struggling and moving them and stuff like that. So
It
that's
is-
I guess I got
This
ahead
was
of
a
the curve.
planet, I was like,
Oh, there was
weird.
less gravity
They kind
or
of
something.
dressed it, they're like, we set something up for you down here. We'll just send you in. And they might have had like, a little different weight ratio.
Great.
I'll tell you what.
Kathy's Star Trek's lawyer now.
I'm
I'll
like,
tell you what,
they
though.
never promised that the rocks would be heavy. That was
One
one thing they
thing-
never said.
Those were
One thing
sponges.
from a production point of view, I've worked on, as I said, 1 million shows.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
And some of the shows that you work on involve fake rocks. That's always going to come up in certain
Oh.
shows.
That'd be a great
And
punk rock
one
name.
problem is
Big rock.
fake rocks. Well, there's places you can rent fake rocks. I mean, they have them in all the
Yeah.
prop houses. There's like warehouses full of fake foam rocks. You can shove them around. You can use them as background. You can use them as props.
Right.
And there's places like greens rental places where you can rent plants. Like there's those 2 dead trees that were there that they break the limbs
Sure,
off
break
of.
the limbs off, right.
Those are obviously planted there. You rent some greenery, but the rocks have always been a problem. Every time I've ever worked on anything where people have to use fake rocks, it's always an issue because it's really hard to act like something is heavy when it's not. Like when you see people in shows carrying suitcases, they're empty because you don't want to put the actors under all this stress and duress. But
Yeah.
in real life, when you're carrying a suitcase, it's like, ugh,
Yeah.
and you're
Cumbersome.
yeah.
Or the car-
lady.
the-
Especially if you have to do it over and over again in the same
Yeah.
scene, you'd be getting pretty tired.
It bothers me though. Like,
Yeah.
the empty, the coffee cups that are supposed to be full, they're totally empty. You sense it.
can tell
Stuntman
the
falls
actors-
into a bunch of cardboard boxes. They're always warehouse action fight sequence. What you guys transporting there? Air or something?
Yeah. My pillows.
Oh, look, you
Fake
fell on
rock
some
action
bubble
is
wrap.
so hard. It's so hard. So I give him credit. When he was lifting, when Shatner's lifting that rock, my wife said, "Wow, good acting."
That's great.
Fair, okay acting.
Yeah.
But that was
There was some
Shatner,
interesting
Shatner,
stuff
man.
too that was kind of a throwback a little bit to Balance of Terror, like when Kirk at the beginning is really ready to go kill something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
He was
Spock
mad.
starts to talk to him about it, and Kirk is like, "Yeah, thanks. I feel all better now that you talked to me," kind of a thing. I thought that was pretty brilliant. The drama at the earlier part before we get to the fight.
And then because he was being all vengeful and weird, that's why he got in this mess in the first place. They're like,
Yeah.
I did not like them being aggressive, and they came into their territory. It's like, if he just chilled out, like Spock said, none of that would have happened.
Yeah,
Well, wait
but
a
they
minute.
had to.
The guy beamed down to a planet, and everybody, women and children, are laying all over the planet. Well, not really, but they're dead. They off camera, they're dead and everything. I would have been ready to go and kick a little myself.
Teach him a lesson.
And it was basically like, we have to stop this spacecraft before it gets back to the base. As though they can't send any kind of messaging or whatever. But it was
That was before anyone had seen the sparkly outfits. See, once they saw those, it was like, I can't kill this guy. It's not gonna happen.
It was hypnotism. Gorns were using their sparkly hypnotism.
Exactly. The sparkly
His eyes were sparkly.
That Gorn,
everything
that
was so
Gorn's kinda
glitter.
hot.
I like the voice. I like Ted Cassidy doing the Gorn stuff. It's
It was
just
so
great.
good.
So
It was
good.
so good. I guess apparently 4 different guys or something played the Gorn, like from different. One was close up, one was far away, one was a voice. Like it was sort of a hodgepodge of people.
I think one
Darth
of them
Vader situation.
Yeah, exactly.
One of them, his name is Bobby Clark, and he had a big career going to all the Star Trek festivals. And he would always have the Gorn head or something.
Oh,
And I think 3 people played the Gorn. It seems so heavy, and that was shot in November, which is not going to be so hot, but it's still going to be warm.
it's hot here in LA though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that
I actually saw the Gorn costume at one point. There was
It's all foamy.
They had it. Yeah, it was all kind
foam?
of falling apart.
Oh.
This was back in the 90s.
Wow.
But it was speaking of rubber suit costumes and stuff, this is actually not a bad one for television. It was
Good.
Yeah.
designed by Hua Chang, who amazing designer. He did so many. I mean, you could just
George Pal, Star Trek phasers, communicators. I mean, he was just about the most inventive guy at that time, in my opinion. He was the guy that put real, 3 centuries later science fiction.
And odd shapes. He'd do these sort of strange choices for shapes of things. But his Gorn costume, for television, that's a pretty ambitious thing. And, to our eyes now, of course, it looks like a costume. It looks like a mask. It's not CGI. We're used to seeing CGI monsters that all, performed by movement specialists or whatever. But this was a stuntman in a rubber suit, but it's so cool looking. The shape of it, the shape of the head, and the weirdness of those multi-lensed eyes, and the recent special edition special effects. They added a little thing to the Gorn, which I think really works. It's blinks. He blinks his eyes a couple times.
It makes you jump the first time. You've seen it for years, and then all of a sudden the eyes make you go, ooh.
Yeah.
It's so real.
Blinking adds life. That's the thing with animation. If you have an animated character that never blinks, it looks dead. But if it blinks its eyes, suddenly it's awake. It lives.
Right.
It's almost the it's and Hua Chang, of course, worked on this show too. It's the closest thing to like an Outer Limits monster after Outer Limits.
Yeah, he did a lot of those.
Yeah. Speaking of Outer Limits, the voice of the first Metron, or is it Metron? Is Vic Perrin.
Vic Perrin,
Vic Perrin,
the control voice.
Yeah.
That whole scene, this is the amazing thing of Star Trek and keeping things going. They're chasing the Gorn. They're going faster than they should be. The Gorn ship gets stopped in space. Their ship gets stopped. They get thrown forward. Then they look at the Metron comes out, tells them who he is, tells them what he's going to do. Kirk just zaps right off the screen. Uhura screams, Spock walks down, and the next thing you see is that Gorn turn around on the planet's surface and hissing. And I'm like, that's brilliant editing. Editing and directing. It's like why don't we get that nowadays? Nowadays it's like, well, let's pontificate. It's like, where's that? What is it Sam Fuller used to say? We need hard-hitting melodrama. I mean, that kind of thing.
Bam, bam, bam. Tell the story and get out.
We need the women to scream when stuff happens.
But again, they did the disappearing effect, which I'm always fascinated by. In the previous episode,
let's do it again. Let's disappear.
Fire of Gothos, they had the disappearing scene that was just basically you stop the camera, get out of the frame, start the camera again, and they added that classic bong. But it's there wasn't any kind of optical or digital no digital enhancement effect for that. He just disappears, which is jarring and really cool, I think.
You can't fight it. You're just, by the time you figure it out, you're already there.
I think it works better than like doing the transporter thing because first off, we've seen it. Okay, this is just a variation of transport, and these creatures are so much more advanced. It is instantaneous. It's like, we're going to transport you. We're just,
Yeah, they didn't give much choice. Like, we're setting up this arena. You're going down and fight to death. Bye. Boom. Gone. It's like, wait. Hold on.
They don't waste any time about him being kidnapped and taken down in a ship.
Right.
Those ideas in Star Trek were so cost effective. The whole transporter idea in the first place. I mean, they were for television.
And there's a lot of story to tell in 50 minutes here. I mean, there is two distinct parts of the story.
Yeah,
of course, the ending, which is different, as there's the mercy, and then which is the way it should end. And the Metron coming down at the very end is also interesting because I kind of forgot that. Yeah,
Metron, why did they look like Greek gods? Like, why was that?
Anytime anybody says Metron or Metron, everybody's got to correct them from now on.
Which one is it? I want to know for sure.
It's both. It's both. Technically, it's both.
So Bones wasn't wrong. Well, he says it wrong, which we assume he does.
But the
he
character,
was drunk.
It's his privilege.
You found that Cestus 3 wine rack and, sort of tanked up.
Pinot Noir, Cestus 3.
Oh my God.
But you can see the money-saving tricks that they do on the show. And one of them, this show has a classic that people may not even notice, but there's the scene where they beam down to the base. They all stand on the transporter platform, and you hear the sound effect start when the guy goes boom, and he starts to do the transporter machine, and the camera pans down to the guy's hand sliding those sliders, and you hear the transporter sound, but you actually don't see the effect. That was probably, I bet the executives were like, love it.
What is it with Burk? Burk needs to do a special podcast just on cost cutting on Star Trek. It's like that.
No, actually, executives would go
for so long. That's such a big aspect.
Here's how it would go.
Yeah.
It'd be like, I love it. And one of the executives, I don't know, it could be a little shorter. Well, I don't know. Maybe it should be a little bit louder. Maybe it should be. I can see like 5 people, none of them agreed. Someone had to call it. No one's going to agree.
Also, too, with Star Trek, we had seen the transporter a whole bunch of it. It wasn't like it was some mystery what they were doing. Yeah. So it's like, okay, let's go ahead and just show the guy's arm instead of paying the $2,000 for the beam out.
We can put more of that money into the costume.
Exactly. That sparkly dress.
Oh, that's where the sparkles from the transporter went. It went on the dress.
In the eyes of the Gorn.
Yeah.
And I guess that this guy, the same director, Pevney, directed, Trouble with Tribbles, which he just directed 2 of my favorite episodes. I guess I like him.
He's a good director.
He's a kind of a notable director in Star Trek.
Oh yeah.
He came up, apparently his Chekhov, the character of Chekhov, was his idea. And he came up with the idea of photon torpedoes, and Arena is the first episode that has photon torpedoes, and the term the Federation had never been used before this episode.
Wow.
So he kind of introduced a lot of tropes that went through into this day on in Star Trek shows.
Well, I'll give
one of those old. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mark.
No, I was just gonna say I'll give you since we're on trivia. Here's my little trivia bit.
Oh, here it comes.
The Metron. Mark, go ahead.
Metron.
Was played at the end. Is played by Carol Schelline. I think that's was a very famous shindig dancer. That show.
Oh yeah, sure. Well,
the one with the big Waldo glasses.
Right.
And she had a single that came out in '65 called "Boys Do Make Passes at Girls Who Wear Glasses."
Yeah, her second song, "I'm Not a Metron,"
that was the B side. That was the B side.
And then the backup singers are Metron.
Because I was like, when I was watching this, I was, is that a woman or a man? I couldn't tell. It was very.
It's neither. It's a Metron.
Second time they did that. They did it with the aliens in the very first pilot where they were played by women, but they've dubbed the voices in with men, and it's a little disconcerting, But this episode had Vic Perrin doing the voice of the Mekon The
So
Metron.
Mika.
Of the
Metro-
Mecons.
the Metronoid.
The
The
Metronoid.
Metro.
But his voice is so cool that you associate his voice
Fantastic.
with
Yeah.
science
He even used the word
fiction.
control. He used
Yes.
the word control. You know, like,
We will
okay.
control it. And he
Oh,
Yeah.
says
that's
it in
so
a way
cute.
like, we will control the vertical. We will control.
Wink,
the-
wink.
Yeah.
Wink,
Yeah.
wink. Say no
Exactly.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
I was
do we
going to say,
have official. Go ahead.
no, I was going to
Go
say
ahead.
there's a reason why it's
Go ahead.
considered one
Metron.
of the top 10, like episodes of the original series because of what we're talking about. Great editing, great costume, great direction, a lot of new interesting things, very compelling.
And a twist,
Character
the
stuff.
twist ending where he does not kill the Gorn. Spoilers, people. is almost a variation of the Twilight Zone theme with the twist ending, but in this case, it's the writing of the character that does the flip. Kirk was really ready to kill this thing,
Yeah.
and by the end, he heard the bit where he was talking back and forth. It's like, you were invaders, not us. And I think back then, I mean, if it had been John Robinson, it would have just been, just fry it, kind of thing. And I think
It doesn't
that was
look
pretty
like
cool.
us. It needs to be killed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Blast
for
it.
sure.
How many
So do we
times did
do?
that-
The whole episode is basically a accommodation. Do we want to do our accommodations and anomalies?
Yeah, there's
Right.
anomalies.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
Go
Burk,
ahead,
tell us
Burk.
about your anomaly. Let's start with the
Yeah.
Or
negative.
how about commendations?
Or we can do the accommodations.
The accommodations. Today's accommodations were provided by the Highland
The
Park
Sheraton.
Hotel.
Vasquez Rocks.
Everything-
There's a cave there you can stay in. Okay, tell us about. You
Bronson
seem to have
Caves.
an anomaly.
No,
Tell us.
the commendation is just the whole episode is really good. The pacing of it but one thing that I think is really cool is the technical jargon, which is something I always notice in the episodes. And one thing, sometimes my wife and I will watch shows with subtitles, which I recommend sometimes just for fun, just as a change. My wife, English is her second language. So sometimes we watch things with subtitles so that she can sort of keep up with things a little bit better. And
I do that because of age.
I know. I've realized, wow, it's kind of
British TV shows.
there's things that I missed before. I never realized he said that. And then now I'm reading it and it's like, oh, I wasn't paying attention to what they were saying before.
A sensualist. Spock calls
Yes.
Spock calls McCoy a sensualist. I'm like, ooh.
Yeah.
And then McCoy has the creepiest reaction, like, "Yes, I'm a
yes. You don't know the half of it,
Drool,
Mr.
drool.
Spock.
teeth are all hanging out." Oh, what that was all
Yeah.
about.
But the technical jargon, when you read the subtitles, you can actually see what they're saying about, rerouting the transformers to blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I've already tried that, Mr. Spock. And all these little things that they wrote into the script, and it's not just crap, it's not just BS. It's actually kind of cool because this episode and the previous episode had a little bit of a beginning where you got that jargon, that bridge jargon. Uhura is trying to make a connection, and she's saying there's a sub frequency, sir, and I can't. All these things that sound like just throwaway dialogue. There was thought put into that stuff, and I appreciate that. I like when I hear that. That's my commendation. I love the technical jargon is not lazy.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
anomaly would be something that I kind of halfway think is maybe not an anomaly. But I remember when I was a kid seeing this, I thought that the elements that were placed on the planet were a little bit
stole my
too
thing.
obvious. Like, it's like the set dress.
the
Now
bright
I know
yellow
what
dust.
happened was the set dresser just dumped a bag of stuff right there on the set. And, there's this element is here, the sodium oxide or whatever, and then the sulfur is here, and then there's a pile of diamonds here, and then there's
It seemed like a
clump
waste of diamonds.
but there's a big clump of bamboo right here, and and then the vine, and there's a scene where he's cutting the
Got
vine.
excited.
He takes this vine that he's like in a hurry, right? And he cuts and he cuts and he cuts, and it's this desperate, he's got to cut this vine, and he picks up two pieces, and it's like he just cut this much off the vine, and he throws it aside, and he takes the vine. It's like, why did he cut the vine, which was 12 feet long? He just cut 2 feet off the end of it.
It's like, it reminded me, it was like a Star Trek escape room.
Yeah.
Like you got to find the pieces and put it together
and
to
they're right
escape.
there.
Yeah, it would
Very
be actually a
obvious.
really good idea. Someone needs to do that.
But then I just start thinking that the Metrons said they were preparing the asteroid,
Right.
so
They said there was a
obviously-
weapon there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it would have been, I think maybe something that would have made that a little bit less jarring would have been a little bit of a line of dialogue, like if maybe Spock, watching the video had said something like, those elements, they look like they were placed there on purpose or something like that, so that it's not like, oh, there just accidentally happens to be some sulfur here and some, all these
Yeah, I
things.
thought they accomplished it by saying the weapon is available if he could find it.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that was sort of like they kind of, even though I wish it had been something besides something that, earthbound, like gunpowder. I wish
Well, it
it
had to be something Kirk would know about.
And
Yeah,
the
but it may be
Gorn
something
had
more
a similar
unique.
thing too.
Yeah,
Like,
true.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be something from both worlds that
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
have happened.
The Gorn had a stick. Sticks always work. I like how they showed Gorn breaking the branch off, and Kirk's like, "I'll do that." He runs
Yeah.
up to his branch; it
Yeah,
wouldn't quite
really.
come off.
Yeah, really.
He's got this little stick.
He's swinging from it back and forth, trying to get it to break.
It's so funny.
Okay, so who's next?
You.
Me. Okay,
Yeah.
I've got about 3 or 4. To quote Spock, negatives.
Oh,
Okay. Go.
One is,
Interesting.
and this isn't real. This is just a note. I always laugh at this part. It's like, when we know you're sad that your captain's down there. It doesn't look like he's going to make it, so we'll let you watch TV.
yeah.
That's the first one. Not like everybody wouldn't be around with their cell phones going like, "Oh, is Captain okay?" That kind of thing. Not that anybody would know about cell phones. The other thing, this is an actual technical thing where Kirk is invisible for a split second while he's running around a boulder.
Yes. Yeah.
That was a weird sort of something like that. It's like they had started to shoot it with nothing, and then when they did it, I guess maybe they didn't have enough, and they put the old film with the new film, and all of a sudden he's kind of just semi-transparent, and then he
Yeah.
and this is the one, that big ass chunk of bamboo.
Yeah.
Kirk,
You hate that bamboo. It's the biggest
like,
bamboo I've ever seen.
In the store, he's like in the store. I'm shopping for bamboo.
I need bamboo that can
He
act
pulls
like
it
a
off.
cannon.
Here comes this giant chunk of bamboo, and it's like, dude, could you have had a couple of other pieces similar that were maybe busted that he couldn't use? It's like,
And I have to tell you, bamboo is so hard. Like you cannot
Yeah.
break that shit. It's
Yeah.
just like
yeah.
I have a bunch of bamboo in my yard, and I tried to cut it down. I wanted to break it into smaller pieces. Not gonna happen.
It's hardcore.
Not.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
so
We've
hard.
seen, and
I wanted to
especially the
build like a
bamboo
gun
that's
with
this big
diamonds.
around.
Yeah.
There's some places that have, you can get furniture. I've seen
Yeah.
bamboo.
It's
like that
hardcore.
in Asia.
Oh yeah, but I'm just
Asian
saying the
countries
difference
and-
between
Yeah.
the two, right? The
And
only
that
other
was huge.
thing, and this is more on a mental attitude of the last years, is 1,000 years will give us the time to finally adapt and become peaceful
Right.
enough. And I'm wondering, Kirk should have called back. Can you give us like maybe 5,000 years
Yeah.
or something?
You
Yeah.
just need like 10 more minutes of violence.
Yeah.
But other than that, that was about it. There's so much great to this show. My little bits were just being silly.
Yeah, it's kind
Yeah.
of fun to nitpick the show in a way, but it's lovingly done. There's a few other things like his shoes. Kirk's shoes in this are not the standard high-heeled, Starfleet issued shiny boots, because those are probably, those were custom made, kind of expensive, and they don't want people running around out in Vasquez Rocks in the expensive wardrobe. So he's wearing these black lace-up shoes in this episode during the Vasquez Rocks scenes.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting. I think it's also for traction because I don't know if I've mentioned it, but I've been on those rocks.
Have you worked on shows?
Yes, I have. And they're
Did you name them
slippery
all?
and they're precarious, and when you got an actor running around up there, you don't want them tripping and falling. So I imagine they probably got some black hiking boots. Those are probably hiking boots of their time.
I would not want my shiny boots in all that dirt. Not gonna happen.
Watch Outer Limits, where Bruce Dern crawls up to the Xanthi Misfits spaceship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not only are they tennis shoes, he had hard shoes on first. they have spray painted them and all of it's flaking off. You can, on high def,
really?
and
I
there's
remember that.
it's just all
Oh,
flaking
no.
off, and you can see the sneakers, but you're not supposed to look at it. I mean, look at the TV sets were 20 inches
Yeah,
back
exactly.
then,
Yeah.
and low definition.
Yeah, you
Right.
wouldn't have noticed it on television.
Yeah.
All this,
honestly.
Absolutely.
4K, 5K, it's like you can see
Yeah.
stuff you're never supposed to see.
37K. Yeah.
And Kathy and I actually saw the spaceship, the Xanti spaceship, and
Ooh.
the Xantis themselves in Forey Ackerman's basement,
That's right. Just lounging
along
around.
with just about all the other Outer Limits monsters.
That's right.
Yeah.
He
And
has
I
everything.
believe
Cool.
Forey didn't Forey Ackerman have the Gorn costume? Is that where I saw it?
I thought he had like a head. I feel there was
Had the
something.
head
there,
and the
like-
hands.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've had a couple of friends, I think, that casted something. I mean, they went out to Vasquez Rocks, and one guy was dressed as Kirk, and another guy had a Gorn outfit that they were play fighting out there. But it was like, I think some of it came from original castings or something, or they had cast it, and then it sits around, and then people go, "Hey, I want one of those."
The molds are still around. They were those old plaster molds back then.
Yeah,
And
those
they would
stay
sort
up.
of paint the latex into it and then thicken it and do all this stuff. It was, I don't think they had, I'm not sure, but I don't think they were as flexible. I mean, it moved a little bit. You can see the mouth moving a little bit when he moves his jaw.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a real flexible kind of thing. So it wasn't the really thin kind of latex that they use.
Yeah.
It was low tech.
And falling apart these days. If you ever see that
bet.
stuff
Love
now,
Yeah.
and
All that.
even
So it's
back
like
in the-
looking at the Ray Harryhausen models,
Yeah.
or worse, the Willis O'Brien models. I mean, it's just a skeleton. Most of them are just skeletons
which
now.
we
Oh.
also saw at Forey's house. He had
right.
Mighty Joe Young, and it was like it was like
Wow,
just
that's
sitting there
impressive.
on a table, and it was like the bits of
Yeah.
it were on the table around it, and
What can you do?
yeah.
I mean, what can you do? I mean, you'd have to
Just
put it like
years go
some
by.
airtight compartment or something to keep it.
It should have been put in a vault somewhere.
or
it's-
sealed in
had it
lucite.
as-
I always thought they
Wait.
should have, those lucite blocks that you can like paperweights that have a
Yeah.
scorpion in it or something. One way to lock it into its present state, maybe.
It's
don't
not
know.
a bad idea. That would have
So
been
I
a
want to
good
talk
thing.
about my accommodations.
No,
Your
Yes.
accommodations,
my
Metron,
accommodations.
Metron, we know already.
4-star accommodations.
First of all, sparkles. Second, I love, like I said, I love the whole thing on the bridge. I loved like you were talking about the two parts, like they have this initial setup and then the great second half with the Gorn is great. I just love the whole outdoor, just him against the lizard guy, just super tight. Love that. The only thing I didn't like was the fucking like missile sounds were making me nuts.
Really? That's it.
That's
not
all I
even-
got. Everything else, well, and the only other thing, and this has been, I always say something about women on the show. Her would not scream. I'm sorry, but that was super unprofessional and just lame. They made her shriek like that. I hated
The guy was there. Oh, come on.
that. Come
What
on,
happened
she
in the
would.
previous
All
episode,
four of
she's-
us
Don't
would have.
like it.
we would have all. I would have jumped into Burke's arms.
Well, they should have had
like
They
that.
should have had
crap.
like somebody else on the bridge screaming. I would like to see Spock scream about it or something. I don't want to, or even Bones. He could scream, but why the woman got to scream? Come on.
You would fall to the ground and vomit is what you would do.
But she's
It's
seen
like-
that so many times. I mean, she saw it in the previous episode when they
people
disappeared off the
left and
bridge.
right.
And
Come on.
I
But
kind of had that
otherwise-
same thought. They had
was
to
just
do
kinda
something. It had to
weird.
be sort of a dramatic reaction to
Or
it.
maybe if it was someone beside you, like maybe it was another woman on the bridge or something like that. Like one of the ones who
and then Uhura
serves
smacked her in the
Kirk
mouth
his
for not being
Diet Coke or
professional.
something.
Yeah.
some random hot yeoman.
Oh, I did
Exactly.
have one last little whiny thing. They got down to the planet. Kirk said that place had been blown up for like days.
Mhm.
And then when they're in the hospital room, the guy says they killed us all yesterday. They did this yesterday. So that was it. That was the only thing.
So Kirk was
Yeah.
just wrong. He just lies.
He's a liar.
Liar. But I mostly I just love the episode because it's everything I love about Star Trek, and even the stuff I didn't like just seems so perfectly Star Trek, and just
Right. Yeah.
like we're saying, we nostalgically love the things we hate about it. That's sort of where I'm at.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, the
It's a great
stunt man. I
episode.
always like it. I like it when I can tell it's a stunt man.
Yeah, it's cute.
Yeah, there was some. Yeah, the thing is that Kirk's running and he's dodging everything,
Yeah.
and then it goes to the stuntman when he does that real huge leap.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
great.
That's
flip.
Leonard
The
Nimoy.
rolling. Yeah.
That's Leonard Nimoy when he's doing it. So he's
Yeah.
like spastic, sort of.
He
Like
doesn't
a
do it well.
I
He
thought it
looks
was
like
Leonard
a
Nimoy
clacking
that-
skeleton from the front door at Halloween. It's like, just throw it. He trips and he goes back and forth. It's like, yeah, you're not as Shatner-esque, are you?
No, he's
Wasn't
not.
it Leonard Nimoy that got the tinnitus, or was it Shatner?
Both of them
Shatner.
did.
Both
It
of
was
them.
Shatner.
Oh,
they
really?
Both got it. Both.
Wow.
got
But
it.
Did they both keep it permanently?
Why did they get tinnitus? What happened? I mean, what?
They were too close to a some sort of explosion, and
Those
it,
loads are
Oh.
loud,
It's
man.
on
But
there.
why
You
was-
can see it. You can see it.
Yeah.
In one of them that you see on
Okay.
camera is the one that gave him the
Oh
tinnitus.
wow, that's
Yeah. So I didn't realize, but I didn't know Nimoy had it. And I
Yeah.
did, or if he did,
Okay.
but did it go away for
his
him?
his went away, but Shatner's did not.
That
Yeah.
sucks.
Mm.
Yeah,
So-
that's
Worth it.
Said it would drive it. Well, he said there's times it almost drove him insane. I could see that.
Yeah.
I mean,
God,
you get
awful.
have you ever had the ringing in your ears, like for some darn reason it goes on
Yeah.
for like 5 minutes and you're like,
It's like, oh no, do I have tinnitus?
yeah,
I
really?
still have ear issues from playing in bands, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure. Yeah.
It was your band, Fake Rocks.
What?
No, it was Tree Lane. Your band was called Tree Lane with the
It's Metron.
Yeah, with
Metron.
William
Wrong episode, Mark.
William Campbell's head on the drum head.
Metron's on the-
Susan Day playing harpsichord.
Ba-da-da-da-ba-ba. I was like when they did that with their voices.
Ugh.
Yeah.
with the
Okay, Mark, you
castle.
got to tell us what's your verdict?
Oh, mine?
Mhm.
Oh, I have all the. Burke took my anomaly.
Oh, great, Burke. Thanks.
Yeah, no, and
Beef.
I mentioned I just think it's extremely well directed. I think Joe Pevney's episodes happen to be the best directed
They are.
ones. I find
He's
them
the
to be
only
portrayed.
director that I think when they did, remember those really early Star Trek books like The Making of Star Trek and The World of Star Trek by David Gerrold. He's the only person that they had photographs of everything from the show. He's the only person they had a photograph of the director in there.
Yeah.
Oh,
I guess
okay.
they figured they put him up there, I guess, with all the other stuff. But I thought that was interesting.
I don't know how many
he
episodes
was an
did,
actor too. I think he started out as an actor on stage, and
Really?
there's a lot of stage people that worked on this show. I guess in television in general, it's inevitable that people would come from stage because you hear about, there's a place near where I live called the Pasadena Playhouse. That's, you always hear, anytime you hear about actors starting out, that they always say, oh, we started out at the Pasadena Playhouse. And a lot of television back then came from local theater, like the local LA theaters. And apparently Pevney was really into it and did a lot of and that's where a lot of the cast came from, is the theater world. And that's why a lot of times they have that sort of broad way of acting that you see on Star Trek sometimes.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Lord Garth.
Yeah.
I am Lord Garth. My God, tone it down a little
Calm
bit.
it
will you,
down.
pal?
Get down a notch.
TV.
Don't give a shit that much.
I've actually
It's
seen
not
that
playing
guy
to the
on
back
stuff.
row.
He's a really good actor. For some reason, they said, well, you ain't got any special effects this episode, so can you yell more?
Yeah.
You got to make the seem important.
So that was I thought that was a really fun episode. I think we've had a couple in a row that have been pretty great.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot
Very
of them
cool.
they just start to get really, really consistently fun. I think the next one that's coming up after this one is one that I really can't stand it. It's like, this is
which
my
one
least,
is it?
my least favorite one.
Uh-oh.
It's the one with Lazarus.
Hmm.
This I don't get the episode.
No, I think the next episode is the one that I wrote you about. Isn't it the one with the Air Force pilot?
I
Air
think
Force is-
I think you're looking at a list that has maybe shooting order versus broadcast.
I looked at
order
it
or
on
something.
the Blu-ray disc box.
We
just-
need Netflix order.
maybe.
We're doing
Netflix
Cinemano
order.
Not with the Netflix order.
No, I'll tell you. Hold on a second.
I heard
I think-
that on the ones on Netflix, they actually changed it from Metron to Metron, so I don't really pay attention to that one. But
Yeah, that's a good one. The one with the tomorrow is
Tomorrow is
yesterday.
yesterday.
Tomorrow is
One on
yesterday.
Netflix.
Oh, that's the next one.
yeah.
Yeah, tomorrow's.
So Mark is
okay.
correct.
Yes.
Look
So
at
it's not
Mark's.
the one Burke hates.
look at
I get to
Mark's
host the
artwork in
episode for that.
background.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Mark
Mark
has
was right.
a drawing in the background of DeForest
right.
Kelly.
Oh,
as
look at that.
Bones.
I thought you had seen this before, you guys.
Oh yeah, but our viewers maybe haven't.
Oh yeah. Look
I
at
remember
People
Mark
watching
when
this shit.
We're
I've
video
seen it.
taping
I've
this
seen
shit.
it. It's boring to me. Yeah.
You better be subscribed to our YouTube channel, and that's a reminder to all you people out there.
Here's this one I've been working on forever. I finally got a chance to get back. There's my speaking of watching, Seven Faces of Dr. Lau.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Tony Randall that I'm
Tony
working
Randall.
Very cool.
Wow.
On. Yeah,
Excellent.
taking too damn long.
Very cool. No, I remember Mark and I have known each other since high school, and I remember Mark drawing these incredible portraits of Kirk and Spock and McCoy, and it's like
Nerd.
that stuff was. I mean, yeah, we were all right
No,
across the board.
They sucked.
Well, I mean, really, a lot of the
No,
stuff
they were great.
that we did in high school was, I mean, you're working in film. I'm doing covers. It's all
great.
Who would
It's training.
If the
It's all I
Lord
got.
God had come down and said, "Burk, you will work in TV." Will I work in it a lot? Yes, you will.
Yes, and then you will
Mark,
do a
you will
podcast about it.
And then, and Mark,
And
you
make
will
no
draw
money
draw
doing
some
it.
stuff. Mark, you will draw a few things. And
I can't function in the real world. That's why I work in make believe land.
That's right.
If there was no television or whatever, I have no other marketable skills besides making fake things for TV and movies. It's like.
I've
You know,
always
people
been
say, "You
loved
ever want to move
ski."
somewhere else?" And I'm like, unless
Nope.
they have a film industry, no.
No, I can't move.
Fandom has also gone through the roof since we
It
were
has.
kids.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
remember when it was like if you did something with Star Trek with a fan group or something, it was like manila envelope with a fanzine in it, or you got a photograph. I mean, there's all that kind of stuff. That is so. I mean, it's like gluttony now. Conventions,
There's such easy access to stuff.
God, the
you can own
Comic-Con out here in
everything.
San Diego is a nightmare.
Yeah.
You can't even go anymore.
I mean,
It's not even our
never
people
figured any-
anymore.
Yeah, it's I mean, I think for me, I had thought about going years ago, but then I saw where it was going, and I'm like, it's so crowded.
Yeah.
I'll stick to the smaller stuff.
And it's not fans anymore so much as it is people that are just trying to sell something there. Or
It's promoters now.
Yeah.
That's what I heard. Yeah.
there's still some fans, but even
be
the
still
cosplay
cool, but-
people, these are people that are trying to make bucks, building costumes for people.
Influencers.
It's not like they're fans of the stuff they're dressed up
Yeah.
as. They're just doing it so that they can make deals, get work, or something. I don't know.
Remember when
Yeah.
we went to that Fangoria concert years ago? Was that in San Diego?
Convention.
The convention, yeah.
It was like
Concert?
Fangoria concert. I'd like to see who was.
Yeah, that would have been a great show.
That was in
Remember we went to
LA.
that?
That was
It
at
was in LA.
out by the LA airport.
Yeah, that was fun. We get to, Sam
Yeah.
Raimi was there. So, like just it's behind a table, and it was so
Vincent
much more,
Price walking around.
Yeah, it was so much more accessible, and it wasn't
Yeah.
packed with people.
Well, when I started doing all those conventions, it was the paying the actor to autograph stuff. So a lot of my earliest autographs are, you just walked up and said hi, and they were very, but there's still a lot of great stuff about fandom. The some of the stuff that drives me nuts though is something was good for a couple of weeks, and then you start hearing the people that hated it.
Yeah.
And then you really start to hear it, and then it's like they completely rewrite history on certain things. There's certain films and stuff that I loved and still do, and then it's like the first month it was like, wow, wasn't that just fantastic? And then somebody finally comes, I don't know, I kind of,
Yeah.
and then they start that up, and then
Yeah.
within a year or two, the thing's hated or something.
Yeah.
It's
I'm amazed there hasn't been a Baby Yoda backlash. I keep waiting for that because I love Baby Yoda. I don't want to hear about it. I mean, I know he has a real name now. I don't care. I'm still calling him Baby Yoda.
we call
It's
him.
like-
Yeah. Linda and I looked at each other. We're watching. His name is Grogu, and
No.
we kind of like looked at each other and went like,
That's the best name.
I know.
Grogu.
But it's like, fortunately, they know how to just hold back enough that he's not overkill that people hate it. So fortunately, it's still working.
Well,
And
he
there's
also
a Baby Yoda. Look.
Well, he also did
My
stuff
neighbor
that
made
was
this.
what he printed out. Was that a 3D printer?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was also he did stuff that was like, ooh, that's kind of mean for Baby Yoda.
Yeah, it was kind of
Man, and everything.
complicated. A little
Yeah.
complex. Like eating all the
All those
little
eggs.
eggs of that poor thing that was trying to
Yeah.
save its species.
Should we
So
wrap
anyway-
this up?
Star Trek. Woo! We were trying to make
Yeah.
these short and sweet, but they keep getting longer because it's so fun to talk about.
'Cause we're
Maddox
so damn
just won't
interesting.
stop.
It is so.
Maddox won't stop talking.
It's all Mark's fault.
It's all Mark's fault.
Just edit me out next when I finally hear this podcast. Next time I hear, I'm not even in it.
Here's a black box.
Little box down
Nothing there.
Thanks, people.
With the Stephen Hawking kind of voice,
Just a
Really?
a still picture of Baylock. or something down there.
I liked it.
Yeah, we put in Ted Cassidy's voice.
That's right. We'll just put a big head there, a big lizard head.
Mark, it's always a pleasure, man.
Always nice.
Always
Yeah,
fun.
See you next time.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me. Love
Yeah.
being on the show. Love talking to
fun.
y'all.
And thanks
You
for
know.
the short notice too. I got in touch with Mark like just a couple of hours ago. I swear. I'm like, hey, you want to do a podcast? And
But it's not Sunday. I
Yeah.
don't understand.
Yeah.
We
We're
need
switching things up.
You know, now that we do video and audio, it becomes a whole other production. So, because
I know,
our
yeah.
fans demand it, we have to do it.
Well, the one thing
yeah.
is too is I'm glad you got a hold of me because I got this. There's this group out of Atlanta that had contacted me and they said we're going to start going through Star Trek straight through
Oh shit!
whoa.
and all that kind of stuff. And I'm
Wonder
like,
where they got that
crazy.
idea.
I'm kind of already doing that. So, and I'm not gonna, I'll just
Old
I'll just
idea.
have Burk send me the tapes and I'll just hand them to him. But
Yeah.
no, I was like, no, I'm doing this already and I'm not gonna be doing.
They can do the animated series.
That's right. They
I
should
thought- I
do the
thought
new
we were
Star
gonna-
Trek.
I thought we were going to do the
Oh,
animated
that's
series.
I guess.
might,
We
yeah.
Oh, good. I would
Mhm.
love to do that. I love
Once
this.
we get
I
through
think
all
those
three-
are
the three
fantastic.
seasons. Yeah, I love them
Okay.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, they're really
Yeah,
All
you
right,
guys
then.
won't. You guys won't be hearing from me so much during the third season.
Okay.
A few episodes, Tholian Web, I'm there. Enterprise Incident. I'll kill you, traitor, kill you. But no, some of them, no.
Not the one with Charles
Ah.
Napier as the hippie. With
No.
the.
No,
We
I think we're
watched-
gonna have to
we
get you in
watched
here
him.
just to hear you rag
we
on
watched
it.
Charles Napier this morning on Starsky and Hutch.
Wow, you're watching
I couldn't
Starsky and
I,
Hutch?
I watched Starsky and Hutch for the first time like in 40 years, and I'm like, do we have a handgun so I can put it in my mouth? Jesus, what a load of that 70s
Woo.
television was real
Brutal.
garbage.
I remember loving it, and then I look back and I go, "What was I thinking?"
No,
Ooh.
Crap.
it was bad.
All right,
I met
All
Charles
right.
Napier.
All right, kiddies.
let's
Thank you so
put
much.
this one to bed.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank
Let's-
you.
Let's bypass the transformers and apply power to the warp nacelle.
Zap out. I'll scream when everyone disappears.
Thanks for watching and listening.
Bye.
Are we warping out?
We're warping out.
Okay. Cinemando warping out.